So are you going to tell us who you're backing then?
Not yet. We're meeting with many of the candidates over the next few days. We wanted to give people the opportunity to set their stall out, say what their vision would be, where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, and see how they dealt with each other in the hustings and other areas.
And what kind of things are you looking for someone to convince you?
Well, I think people sometimes forget that the trade unions formed the Labour Party, and there used to be a time when they were considered the political wing of the trade union movement. So a lot of the movement we've had since 2015, where Ed Miliband did vast work and Jeremy's driven it further forward, we'd like to see that continue. We need to articulate that voice of ordinary people that the Conservative Party seem to have claimed in the short term because of a one-topic process. But the real message is about the 4 million people that are in poverty, the 1.5 million people in destitution, those that are in non-work, faux self-employment or zero-hours contracts. We need to give those people a voice.
You were saying there that you want to see some of the work of Jeremy Corbyn continue. You, of course, nominated Jeremy Corbyn previously. Many people see Rebecca Long-Bailey as his natural successor, the person who perhaps has the closest politics to Jeremy Corbyn in the race. Are you leaning towards her?
Not sure yet, because ultimately people don't seem to understand membership-led organisations. So the Labour Party is a membership-led organisation. This process only delivers the candidates. The 550,000 members and one person, one vote will then decide which candidate they want. And it's the same with my organisation. I have a board that's called an executive committee. We will make recommendations. They will ultimately decide the nomination of ASLEF to that process. It won't be Mick Whelan.
What's your own view, though? Do you think that Rebecca Long-Bailey is a strong candidate?
Well, strange enough, they're all friends and colleagues of mine. I've worked with many of them down the years, so I'm not going to say at this moment in time my personal preference, either for leader or deputy leader. And it's going to be difficult for me afterwards, no matter who we choose, facing the people I know well.
Could be slightly awkward.
Yes.
Now, ASLEF, of course, also backed Brexit.
Yes.
How important do you think it is for Labour to reconnect, if you like, to some of those communities, particularly the Midlands and the North, where we lost a lot of seats, who voted heavily to leave?
I think there was a massive misunderstanding about Labour Party's policy, ultimately. When the policy was...
So people were too stupid to understand when they were voting?
Never ever say people are too stupid to understand anything. It could be myself that's too stupid to understand. But basically, what Labour said was they would respect the vote, they would then deliver a Brexit, and then their version of Brexit they would give people a choice on. I think people were so exhausted by Brexit that the nuances of going out without a deal or a poor deal either under Theresa May or Boris's even worse deal, right, didn't matter at that point. They just wanted it done.
I mean, some of the candidates in the race pushed very hard for that second referendum position, something that many people think Jeremy Corbyn himself was a little bit sceptical of at the beginning. How important do you think it is that the next leader is somebody who perhaps understands why many people wanted to leave the EU?
Well, I think once the decision had happened, there was a degree of xenophobia, there was a degree, this take back control and the mindset that went with it. I think the reality is that the European Union had become something that it wasn't promised in the 70s. That didn't materialise under the social contract in 1984 under Jacques Chirac and was becoming more and more a federation of states, and people didn't want to belong to that as it was. Also, for us, a bit parochial. Certain EU regulations that prevented us protecting our steel industry, they allowed us to run our own railways, our own utilities, were giving major concern to people both in industry and elsewhere. I
mean, there's been some kind of analysis commentators saying that people like Keir Starmer, Emily Thornberry, representing London seats, backing a second referendum, perhaps a bit out of touch with some Labour voters?
I think there's a difficulty. If you're an MP or any elected person, I get elected, you have to take in context the view of the people that are electing you and what they want you to do. I articulate the voice of my members. Do I agree with every policy we create? I'm not quite sure I 100% do in all times. But if you're in a Leave constituency, I imagine if you want to get re-elected, you say the things that you have to say, and I imagine if you're in a Remain constituency, you do the same thing.
A big part of the manifesto, both at this election and the last one, was nationalising the railways. Is that a red line for you when you're choosing which candidate to back?
No. It's a major thing for us, because we fought privatisation before it happened for the last 25 years. And we now actually have the Williams report saying that the model has failed. It never delivered what it's meant to do, which we'd like to be proved right, but no one seems to recognise us for it. The reality for us is the big thing for us. It's an opportunity, far greater than ever before, right, with the climate change agenda, with the Green New Deals that we need to do, that the railways and transport will form the core to what we do. A modal shift from road to rail for freight and mass transit, now is the time to do it. But it has to be under a system whereby communication was always one of the 4 factors of production. Anything that got goods or services from A to B, right, was recognised as good. So even if you had to invest in it, what it generates for the local economy and the national economies was where you got the benefits from. So there will always be a degree of subsidy in some form of transport.
I mean, one of the really big things when it comes to the railways, of course, is what to do with HS2, the high-speed rail link. We're expecting the government's commission report into HS2 to be published in the coming weeks. Are you worried by some of the reports saying that the government is potentially looking at scrapping at least part of HS2?
Well, it frightens me. I mean, we've already scrapped the one part of it, so we pandered to the cost argument. There's never been a major project in the UK delivered on time or has delivered the capacity it was meant to do. So when the M1 was open, it was always oversubscribed. And we're about 30 years behind where we need to be in our infrastructure building, both.
I mean, the costs of HS2 have ballooned, though, haven't they?
And they will do. But the trouble is, if we stopped it, would it be cheaper in future? The real problem is HS2 should have started at the top end of Scotland, started on the south coast, started building at the same time, met in the middle and regenerated everything. It would have regenerated the economy, it would have given a boost to construction, and it would have given the platform for us to enter into this green new era. Unfortunately, we're being short-sighted on the fact that we can treble our debt to trillions of pounds under austerity and not deliver anything for it. But actually investing, as traditionally has happened at times of recession or in a post-austerity world, seems to be the wrong thing to do.
OK, and just finally, before Christmas, the government unveiled these plans to make it unlawful to strike unless there was a minimum service provided on the railways. And you said at the time, you said this, hopefully it should be coming in a moment, you basically said this is a declaration of war. It will be rail today and other industries tomorrow. That is Boris Johnson's threat. Sorry, it's not appearing there, but we've read it out, so we know what we said. So are you at war with the government?
I'm at war with the ethos of forced labour, any form of indenture or slavery. We sign up to...
And is that what you think the government is trying to push, then?
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do. I think the reality of us is that it's not a well-known fact that only Lithuania has worse labour laws than we do. This cradle of democracy, this place of Magna Carta, right? We, under Maggie's laws, under the trade union bill, we virtually hurt the right of people to strike. We also, then, under the Loving Transparency Bill, took away their voice, and now you want to take the actual opportunity to strike against bad employers away.
Slavery is a strong word, though.
Incredibly strong word, and that's because the strength of feeling. And, when I talk to people, not just in my industry but elsewhere, that is the feeling of how it is.
Because of this change to ensure a minimum service on the railways if there's strikes?
Yes.
You think that's a form of slavery?
I think it's a form of forced labour. I think if you remove the... We have no right to strike in the UK now. We only have a right not to be sued if we jump through the multitude of hoops that are put in place. And, when you look at certain European countries in the mid-30s, the stranglehold on the voice of civil society, the right to strike, the ability of trade unions, whatever, created a world in which we don't want to be. I want to be very, very careful where we go as a society, right? What do we want? And also putting in a process, something that will just lead to poor industrial relations in my industry for the next 20 years by anybody who signs up to this, probably isn't going to deliver the intention what it's meant to do.
OK, thank you very much for being on the show today. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Sophie.